Sometimes we're not ourselves. There's no one I can turn to. And I know all the feelings that we shared are in the past. And I know your relationships are never meant to last. And I'll take some time, but I'll be alright. We're moving on. We're moving on. I know times are tough, but I've had enough. We're moving on. We're moving on. We're moving on.
Hey guys, I'm always dancing to that music. I'm so excited to be here with you guys today. Let me turn on the chat overlay. I know you guys have already been in there chatting it up, but let me add you to the conversation. Guys, let us know that you are here. Good morning. Good morning. I see you, Marguerite. You are always here. Thank you so much for supporting the show. I see you, Pamela Cannon. I see you. Hey, Bizrat, welcome. I see you, Christina. I see you, Nita. Hey, Tina. You guys, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to episode 9 of Unfiltered. Now, hey, Mom, I see you there. Hey, Rutho. Let me tell you something. I am not going to spend a whole bunch of time on the introductions and talking about what a wonderful job you guys are doing sharing, because you already know that. And because we have such an amazing conversation that I want us to get started with today. So without further ado, guys, please like and share. You definitely want people to be a part of the conversation. And of course, we are going to be doing Be Blessed today. I'm going to go ahead and give y'all a sneak preview here. Our sponsor for today is going to be none other than Miss Tanisha Locklear of Innovative Beauty Pros. Guys, when you see one of our guests today, just know that her hair is hooked up by Tanisha. It was amazing. She does an amazing job. She specializes in braids. She is flexible, reliable, and mobile. That means she will come to you. Innovative Beauty Pros, we're going to be highlighting her a little bit later. But know this, we also have, in addition to today's gift, hey Charlie, hey Nicole, that came directly from last week's winner, which is Miss Pamela Cannon. She added to the gift. And I'll give you guys a hint. Today's gift is over $300. So I am super excited about that. But we're going to jump into the Be Blessed portion later. Make sure that you are tuned in to us and able to chat, whether via YouTube or Facebook Live on the BC Rights page. So that being said, let's jump into today's conversation. I know that you all saw the flyer that went out, so you kind of have an idea what we're talking about, but may be a little bit different. Our mission is to be blessed and stay woke on Unfiltered every single week. We talked about Be Blessed. We'll get into that segment later. Let's talk about staying woke. So modern day slavery, I put up there a question mark. I was like, okay, modern day slavery, what are we talking about? Guys, slavery is still alive and well today. It's just a contemporary format of it, right? If you look at this, there's child slavery across the world. There's human trafficking. There's forced labor. There's bonded labor. There's forced marriage. And there's also descent-based slavery happening in other parts of the world. If you look at what they talk about on antislavery.org, yes, there is a site that covers this. It talks about the definition for slavery. It's the exploitation of other people for personal or commercial gain. It is modern slavery, and it's all around us. People have become entrapped in things like sex trafficking. People have become entrapped in making clothes and things like that for little to no money, and taking care of children for a threat of being exposed or being taken back to their country or being put in jail. It happens all across the world. In fact, 40 million people worldwide are estimated to be participating in modern day slavery. 1 in 4 are children. This comes from the antislavery.org organization. Almost 71%, guys, were women and girls. And 10,000 people in the United Kingdom alone were identified as being modern slaves in 2019. But here's the deal, guys. This is clearly something that happens in other countries. Or is it? Because the Emancipation Proclamation said that you're free if you live in the United States. But apparently this gentleman on the left did not get the memo. Look at this article. A Black man in South Carolina, right here in the United States, was enslaved by a white restaurant owner. And the court found that he should be awarded more than $500,000 in damages. The man had been working for him since he was 12 years old. And we're going to get into the facts of that, but here's some of the details. The gentleman who's guilty of this modern day slavery was sentenced to 10 years in prison. The guy was mentally disabled, and he forced him into this situation and abused the situation. The offender, the criminal, his name is Bobby Paul Edwards, and he owned a restaurant called J&J Cafeteria in South Carolina. Chris Smith is the victim. He had intellectual challenges. He was mentally disabled, and he was forced to work 100 hours a week without pay, while being forced to live in horrible rat-infested conditions. The Department of Labor, or the Department of Justice rather, described the abuse as he was beat with a belt, he was beat up with fists, he was beat with pots and pans, and in one incident, the gentleman, the offender, took some metal tongs, put them in hot grease, and burned his neck. This is what we're talking about today. How can this happen in our country? How does something like that happen in America? To join the conversation with us today, we have some very insightful ladies. They are also my sisters. I'm going to help welcome them to the broadcast. You saw the flyer one at a time. Please help me welcome to the broadcast Dr. K, Katrina King-Flucas of Freedom by Design. We also have with us joining the broadcast none other than Miss Roseanne Moreno out of Texas. Thank you so much for joining us. And we have Demetria Amos out of Atlanta, Georgia, who will be joining us live on the conversation. Welcome to the call, North Carolina. Thank you, Miss Tish, also joining us on the conversation. And we have out of Florida, Miss Shynitha Ponton, who I believe is visiting Georgia right now, joining us for the conversation. And of course, we can't do this without my girl Lee joining us for the conversation. So thank you guys. And I'm going to ask Shynitha to mute herself. I think she's doing a little bit of typing over there. So thank you guys for joining the conversation. And let's go ahead and get started. Ladies, jump in and let us know, what were your thoughts upon seeing this?
Burn. So, the special ed director in me just jumped all out, first of all, because when I looked at it, I'm like, okay, ID. So I was like, in my mind, I'm painting a picture of the students that I support, that I serve, and understanding a person with an intellectual disability, their IQ range is like a 70 to 75. So
Wow.
you're talking about a person that has 2 or more adaptive areas that are impacted. So they need help with self-care, with living, with a lot of things. I do hear the feedback as well.
Yeah, someone's typing who's not on mute. So if whoever that is, if you guys can hear us. Hey, Charlie, welcome. We're waiting for, I'm not sure where the feedback is coming from, but someone is typing. I believe it may be Nita or maybe Lee. It's not Lee. Nita, if you can hear us, you're the one who's typing. Okay, let me see if I can find a way to, I think I know how to take care of this. All right, there we go, Trina, please go on.
Okay. So, again, thinking as a special educator, I was like, this is a person who has, yeah, I think so. This is a person who requires major life support from family, from friends. So I'm just wondering, I understand it happened, but there were some questions that were coming to my mind because other people saw it.
Yes.
He worked in a whole restaurant. These individuals, they're easy to identify because they don't carry the same kind of conversation that a typical person would have. Their conversations are very minimal. So other people working in this restaurant, other people interacting, other people in the community, I'm like, somebody else had to see something that didn't look right within 5 years. He has a whole family who raised him, who he grew up with. What happened? I started thinking all of these different things. I'm like, I don't understand how this could happen today with people. The restaurant owner, he is wrong. He is dead wrong. But there are so many other people who are also very wrong because they sat by and they watched it happen. It infuriated me.
Yeah, I gotta say, Trina, when I saw the same thing, I was like, okay, so how do you keep the person from their family? Dee, talk to us a little bit about your thoughts.
Well, I agree with Trina on this. I actually looked at this a little bit differently as I read through the story because I was so upset. I actually texted back to the group and said, I have no words right now. Because in the restaurant itself, everybody knows what's going on. Everybody knows who's dating who's doing what, or whatever the case may be. And there was a co-owner from my research. His brother co-own the restaurant. And I asked the same questions. How do these people that see this day in and day out not ask a question, not look further in? I mean, were they all intimidated? I mean, there's so many layers to this. And because he had special needs, how did we neglect that?
Mm.
And that bothered me. Where is his family? But even if his family was not around, or because I believe in the story that it said that he had put him in one of his rundown apartments,
Yes.
and those conditions were deplorable. And I felt like that should have been charges all by itself. As like landlord, or I didn't slumlord or whatever. But I felt that there were too many missed opportunities that the community, his family, whoever, could have stepped in. How did this go 5 years? 5 years.
I think the key. Oh, sorry.
I think I read from the conversation that apparently someone saw marks on his hand and decided to say something. But that wasn't the first time he had marks on his hand. So talk to us a little bit, Shynitha, about your thoughts and concerns. I think you're still on mute, love.
And Bernadette.
Okay, go ahead and talk, Lee.
Yeah, so what I was thinking too here is that something I think that happens all too often is when especially when you look at the employees who were there, turning a blind eye and a deaf ear to things that they know aren't appropriate. And I think too often that happens because of fear, that we are so, I don't want to say self-absorbed, but so concerned about our own situation that we don't want to lose our own job. We don't want to lose our possibility for advancement. So we keep quiet about things. I think this happens when you look at communities that are being riddled with crime. I think you look at this when you look at child molestation, trafficking. There are so many things that happen. And I think because we're so concerned about our natural situation that we, turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to stuff like that.
Yes, that is so true. Shynitha, are you able to talk now?
Yes, I am. And my biggest concern, going back to Dr. K and D and what everyone has said, this man had a disability. So somewhere down the line, he had to have a caretaker. So my thing is, where is the family? What's the family in this situation? And if he had a disability, there may have been a check, Social Security, all type of things. There is so much missing from this story at this point in time. It's a lot missing. There's a lot of pieces that's missing, but most of all, people with those type of disabilities, they're always displaying some type of vulnerability. They're always showing some type of fear, whether it's anxiety, whether it's being afraid, having trust issues or whatever. So this is something that was grossly overlooked. It's inhumane. And as it relates to a price tag, how can you put a price tag on enslavement, being enslaved?
Tish, join us in the conversation.
Well, thank you. And I'm really trying to keep my composure, because my first thought is, you wondering where his family is. You'll see them now that the money is surfaced. My thought is that this gentleman, and like she said, this went so long that the staff had to know, because the article said that he started work at 6 a.m. to 1:30 a.m. the next morning. And sometimes he would have to be carried out and be fed drink and food to restore his body's strength. And I'm thinking, my God. And the intimidation, we know that slavery starts, like she said, with fear, the fear tactic, and the mental abuse. Can you imagine what this gentleman, at his IQ, his level of fear was childlike. He was like a child in this man's hand. And so I think about the man. When I first seen the article, I couldn't read it. And I think I sent it to you. I said, I can't read it. I said, because it's so inhumane. And you think that we have progress when we really have not, because Like someone chatted, this thing goes on more than what you realize. And when I think about the fact that this gentleman worked in a pub facility, he wasn't working in someone's home hidden in a basement. He was in a restaurant. There's no way that for 4 or 5 years, no one's seen this abuse going on. And so I think more people need to be held accountable. And I think the restaurant is shut down now, but you have to go to the mindset of the person who was holding him hostage. What abuse did you have to suffer that your mentality that you could abuse a human being, and especially when you abuse someone who is defenseless, because that's what I consider the gentleman to be with his IQ level. He could not defend himself. And thank God for the grace of someone who finally spoke up.
Amen. Thank you so much. Roseanne.
I'm disgusted, but and saddened. I'm really saddened by reading this article, but I asked myself, if I saw it, would I know it?
That's the question right there.
And you know, this is you started, Bernadette, thank you for having this platform, because I mean, it wakes me up, because I've got chills thinking about it, because would I know it if I saw it? Because I'm a creature of habit, like so many of you all, and I go to the same restaurant all the time. And I know all the waitresses and waiters. I know their story. I know what cell phone service they have, for Pete's sake. I know things about the people who wait on me where I go to the same restaurants. And so this really hit me, because Conway is a place that I frequent. And I said, what if I was in that restaurant? That's like where I go. That's where I hang out. And if I saw him, would I see it? Would I know it? And then what would I do? Because we're talking about modern slavery, right? I started to research and look at some of the things that you spoke about in the very beginning, about even in not even people with disabilities, but females that were educated, that somehow got trapped into some sort of slavery, just like this gentleman did. And it's not, you know, I think, and I don't know how else to put this, but to say that I think for even me, not being awake and understanding all of this, like this just really opened my eyes. And I said, this is not merely, and I don't say that lightly, some historical relic of what we think of slavery and shackles. There's shackles we don't see. And I know that if you are going to a restaurant and frequenting, you've got to see signs. And I really just, I recently went to get a massage. Somebody gifted me a massage. And when I went into the massage place, I felt uncomfortable. It didn't look right. I thought, are these ladies, that crossed my mind, are these ladies like here by force to give massages? It was a weird feeling. So if you're in a restaurant and you're seeing this gentleman, you've got to pick up on something. And I think at this point, would I be responsible? Would I be awake? Would I do something? That's the question, because then it becomes my responsibility when you're awake and you see it.
Oh gosh, thank you so much, Roseanne. And that's the question. We're here to stay woke. So ladies, we're going to talk about some of the things that we need to be paying attention to, because think about this. When he first started working there as a busboy, he was 12 years old. We're in America. How many of y'all already know he shouldn't have been working there at 12 years old? So let's start with that, right? And then he becomes this adult. And if I'm here at 5 o'clock in the morning and you're here, I'm here at 1 and you're here, I'm here at 10 o'clock at night and you're still here, someone should have said something. And we've all come across people who we knew were mentally disabled or who weren't operating at their highest capacity. Are we asking the proper questions? Like when he comes to the table, are we saying, are you okay? When we see a girl who looks like she don't belong, like in that spa, are we saying, do you need help? Are you okay with this? Do you need me to get a message to someone? I also had this thought, LeWanna, about the law. Like, and what are we doing from a political standpoint? I know that we talk about sex trafficking, right? And they talk about human trafficking. That's a big thing in Atlanta. But what else should we be doing? Shouldn't we be teaching people what to look for?
And we do. Most of the major corporations, take for instance, as you guys know, Atlanta is probably second or third in the world for sex trafficking because of the size of our airport. So it does make us very vulnerable. So it is. So Delta Airlines, they do special training. All your major hotels now are doing major training to see, to teach people what to look out for. So if you look at, take for instance, I was at the Ritz-Carlton, and it's usually some of the high-end hotels that they're doing a lot of the sex trafficking through. So some of the high-end hotels are looking, and they're training, especially cleaning crews, on what to look for. So if you see tons of beer bottles, tons of used, wrappers of things, people who are, in and out one particular room, they're teaching the staff to look for certain things. There are laws and legislations that are continue to come out. It's something that's still on the works. Because again, you have to cross both party lines to be able to pass these laws. And we don't get much pushback, but the problem is that there are so many other things that are more pressing, because we don't feel like it happens to our children enough. So it's not something that always gets pushed to the forefront. But again, it's something that, we have to be very vocal about. And so because we're not as vocal about some of these things, it continues to lag behind, getting pushed through. Now, granted, COVID made it so much easier for some of these things to happen because everybody was just kind of stuck inside. And so, people weren't at their normal places to kind of see something and say something. So I think that kind of exacerbated the issue. Same thing with abuse. How do these things happen, when you've got child slavery and some of these other issues, but when, you've got things like COVID that are happening and we're not out and about and we're all so concerned wearing our masks and you can't see the fear of panic on people's faces, we're like I said, it also comes back to being so consumed about us that, I don't have time to, that's not my business. I'm staying in my lane.
Yes.
We have gotten so trained on, that's not my problem. I'm not jumping in. That's not my business. Like, I got enough stuff going on myself. I can't be training other people's kids. I can't be policing other people's households. If he's beating her, if he's doing this, that's not my problem. And that attitude is what's kept this very, very prevalent. And I think that's something we have to look at internally as to, why are we doing that? Why are we saying that, what, it's not my issue? And we need to take a step back to kind of, push past the, it's not my issue. Especially for most of us who are parents, if I'm at a restaurant and something doesn't look right, I'm like, is that really her daddy? And so I follow, I've done it. I followed a kid to the bathroom because again, I've been trained on sex trafficking because of a lot of the organizations, but hey, sweet, are you okay? Is that your real dad? Are you hungry? And then if not, then report it. Lock the bathroom door, to keep that person out and call staff in or whatever. But we have got to be at the point where we're willing to get involved and take, some calculated risk. So.
Yes, so good. I want to run over to Dee really quick. Dee and Tish, I'm throwing this question to you guys. Let's talk about it from the perspective of a lot of people may, say stuff like, okay, well, he's grown and I understand he had some mental disabilities, but why didn't he go just find his family on his day off? Like, why would he stay in this situation? Because there are some people who are of the mindset, well, he's a grown man. How can you force him to stay? How can you force him to work 100 hours a week? He must have got to leave. He must have been able to say somebody. Talk to us about that, you and Tish, from that mental standpoint.
Wow. I'm still just flabbergasted at this point, because it seems like the story keeps unraveling. And the question I would present was, that's like victimizing the victim. You know what I mean? The victim is in a situation for whatever reason that they are scared, or the abuse sounds like it started early when he realized how do you get where's your mama when your 12-year-old is going to work and is working these hours? And I'm pretty sure it probably didn't start off 100 hours at 12 years old. But as he got older and the situation, and the gentleman felt that he had some type of power or authority that I really believe led him to, with most abuse and things like that, it has something to do with a power issue of the offender and what they were struggling with. And so when he realized he had the power to scare this child into submission, he ran with it. And it just began to develop over the years. So I believe that there's layers of years that this abuse occurred, and he was afraid. The article spoke about him being afraid to, because he threatened him. He said he would beat him where no one would recognize him. You know, again, like as Tish had said, he had a childlike disposition. So if you're telling a child, I'm going to hurt you, or I'm going to hurt your family, or I'm going to, you know, and I mean, continually this man lied and said, I'm putting your money in a bank account that never existed. You know, he was telling him things, and I'm sure he would dangle a carrot every now and again, and then suck him back in. And then, you know, the abuse would only get worse. The cycle continued. What do you think, Tish?
Well, I think he took on a father role for the young man. Like you reiterated. Look at what he was doing. He put him in an apartment. He gave him a job probably when no one else would. He
Right.
showed him some form of attention. This is classic. This is classic for a predator. He also, like he said, all those years his money was being put aside, his pay was being put aside in a bank account. And so look at that status from the young man. It's almost like the slave, the master's feeding me when no one else would. He's showing me some form of attention when no one else would. And I'm sure the young man, to some extent, took pride in the fact that he was working. And so I take it from that. And so the young man's guards dropped down, because in his mind, there's some normalcy in this. You have to think about it. He's like a child. What do predators do with children? They provide for them. They give them things. They start off giving them candy, giving them gifts. And that's how they take it. And all of a sudden, things become normal. It's just like with the slaves. When some were free, they stayed. Why? Because it became...
Wow. Katrina and Nita, I want you guys to join the conversation. Both of you, I know Tish and Dee both have a background in counseling and psychology. And I know you and Nita also have a background with education and mental disability, but also Nita, you work with children every day, and you actually are receiving training on sex trafficking, and you both have backgrounds in the criminal justice system. Talk to us a little bit about how this happens from that perspective.
As I'm sitting over here, I'm like shaking and rocking, because it's bothering me so much. Like Dee said, just reading it and identifying that when I first saw the gentleman and I started reading, I'm like, first of all, he's a narcissist. So that's first and foremost. And it's just like I saw Nanette in the chat said, we see it in education all the time. You know, those children are very attached to that person that is abusing them. But and it's almost as if it's like hidden in plain sight, because I'm here, but you're really not paying attention to the developmentally delayed person. It's almost like you're saying, oh, what a great job. They're giving that man a job. You know, he can't take care of himself. That's so good. They're doing a really good thing. And he probably was a pillar. I mean, not a pillar. He probably was a fixture in that restaurant. People were so used to seeing him. And so they saw him, but they didn't see him, because I saw that once he actually beat him because he didn't bring chicken out fast enough to the buffet. Like Roseanne said, we go to restaurants we frequent. We know restaurants and stores where people with disabilities are working. So you're just saying in your mind, because you're minding your own business, not paying attention, you're like, oh, that's so good that they let them work. But no, they are whole human beings too. So that thing that, you know, I'm like hidden in plain sight, they're right there. You can even see sometimes scratches, but guess what? A parent or a guardian will say, oh, they're self-abusing or self-mutilating because they don't know no better. And you're like, it could be possible. You know, this is a grown man. So thinking again about a person with ID, that person with ID, they have issues with major life functions. That's keeping themselves groomed, taking care of themselves. So yeah, it could easily be dismissed. But even in reading the article, a stepmother of one of the workers was the one who actually came forward. And people would ask, hey, what's going on with him? But everybody was afraid of the restaurant owner, so they dismissed it. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm sure If he was that bad, people got fired and people quit all the time. So when you quit, when you got fired, that was your opportunity to open your mouth to say something.
Yeah.
This lady did, but that's how you could miss it, because it'll be dismissed, because we take even a grown person with a mental disability and we put them in the category of a child, or a little like, oh, it's okay. Yeah, they'll be okay. And you just move on because his family probably was like, he's grown now. That man's giving him a place to live. He good. We don't have to worry about him. We've had to take care of him all his life. Let him work it out. And they never have to see him or deal with him. And that's how it happens. They forget about that child, that person.
Wow.
Yeah, and on the flip side of that, you're right, Bernadette. I do deal with these children every single day, and just to add to it, a child with a low IQ or disability, they develop trust, and at this point in time, regardless of what this man was going through, that was his lifeline at that time. So by him dealing with that, the lifeline, his trust was there. His trust. So he would have never reported what was going on with him, because at that point in time, that is my lifeline. This is my norm. He did not understand. He probably did not understand that I am developmentally delayed. I do have a disability. He may have felt that was a norm for him. So he would have never, and I see it day in and day out, the children, they come in to care, and those that have harmed them, they still want to be a part of their lives, because regardless of what's going on, the trust is still there. I would rather put up with this instead of going to someplace else. And people do turn their back on it, because the kids, even when they go out and the CPIs go out and they investigate the cases, the children will sit and deny different things taking place, because they want to stay in that situation, because they know no better. They do not want to get up, start all over, pack their bags, and go into the same scenario all over again. So when law enforcement comes out all the time, but if they do not have a conclusive, the story does not match, they have to, let it go. And people may have called in for this man, but because, did the law enforcement people look in? What is his disability? Is he developmentally delayed? What factor, to what level is his disability? Is it something known, or is it something that was just known to the owner? So we have to look at that as well, because once those calls are called in, we'll call it in a heartbeat. Absolutely. And the police have to go out and investigate it. Then the CPIs get involved, but child protection get involved. But if the kids, or if there are not any scars at that point in time, then it's dismissed.
You know what, Vern?
Go ahead.
In response, when you're thinking about a person who is ID, here in Georgia, we call it MID. So it would be mild intellectual disability. So then we have a learning disability. So, like most people with disabilities fall into the LD, learning disability category. Mild is, when you think about it, the child who can't take the Georgia Milestones test. They're taking a alternative assessment, like a portfolio type assessment. They need teacher assistance in order to be assessed, and they're not measured. So when we say this level of disability, you can see it. In many cases, physically, there are some things, and you're definitely going to hear it in conversation, because they're not going to, and it does equate, when they're younger, we call it developmentally delayed. They're not going to have a conversation like you and I. So it goes back to everything that the lady said. They believe everything that this person is saying. Like, it's like, I think Santrell put Stockholm Syndrome. They're developing this bond, and he knows this animal he does not want to deal with another animal. Like in his mind, it could be worse. I don't, because there is this big monster. Like I know this one, I don't want the next one that's going to do something. He's already being degraded. And in his mind, he has the mentality of a child, like literally, even though he's however old he is, he has the mentality of a child.
So let me ask you ladies this, and I have you all on camera for this. Do you think that $500,000
Nope.
is enough?
Nope. No, ma'am.
No.
You don't even finish that question. That
No.
is absurd
How can we
on
put
every
how can
area.
we put a price? How can we put a price on enslavement? Not to
Right.
not to mention the mental cruelty. Not to mention how can we? We don't know how many times that this man from 12 years old up until whatever his age now contemplated suicide. How can we put a price on it?
It's not even punitive. So I'm thinking to myself, if we break down what happened, you're kidding, right? So 100 hours a week for years and years and years. You were held hostage away from your family. It was first, you guys, he was awarded $273,000 at first. And then the court went and came back and said, oh, that's not enough. He deserves at least $500,000. What?
What do they call that? Liquidated damages or something?
Are we putting interest on it?
Right.
I didn't understand that, but the 500,000 clearly is enough. But then here's the next question: what about the 10 years? So for 5 years, go ahead, Roseanne. And Roseanne, you're on mute, love.
That time is gone, and he can never ever get that back, or have improved his quality of life during a 10-year period. That there's no price tag. And Bernadette, you're an attorney. I don't know how this works. My question was, okay, he should be paid 500. It said, it kept saying should, and let's say it was court ordered. How does that get paid? If he doesn't have the money, then what happens?
That part right there. How does he get paid? So this man is in jail, right? So he's in jail and you've ordered the payment, but a lot of the times the payment never comes. It's just, it's an illusion to make people think that there's some type of justice, because I'm in jail. Restitution only gets paid if I can pay restitution. So when I get out of jail in 10 years, right, then we'll see what I have.
That's the part that stuck out to me when I was reading, and it was saying that the what is his name, Edward, co-owned the restaurant with his brother. But there's no conversation about his brother. One, there's no way you're going to tell me the brother knew nothing.
Right.
And that's one. Two, the suit was filed against the restaurant, the Edwards. I thought it was someone else, but either way, it took, when the ruling came down, there was several years in appellate court for the liquidated damages to even be applied. So there was several years in between the first ruling. What's going on with this child now? Because this man, he's of course with the state now, but what does that end up happening? That's a very good question. Does the state now get that money because they're taking care of him? Again, where's his family? And Tish made a good point. Oh, they'll show up now.
Right. Yeah. And the question becomes really, where is the justice? Like, where is the justice in this situation? You gave him 10 years in prison, but we all know that there are things that go along with that. He may not even serve the full 10 years.
Right.
We have the unjust enrichment part of it. I'm sorry, your bottom line for your business stayed afloat because this man was working 100 hours a week for free. So let's start with that. So we haven't even talked about, forget just the compensation for him having worked for free. What about your unjust enrichment? Because you didn't have to pay his health insurance. You didn't have to pay for his salary. You didn't have to put nothing away for Social Security. You didn't have to do anything. He couldn't even file taxes. So this thing is way deeper when you start talking about modern day slavery, and not just when it applies to this case. Any form of modern day slavery, you're going to have to deal with these same issues. these
Vern, you have to,
issues. Please, Tish.
excuse me, you have to look at the judicial system. Even they are abusing the man because they don't see his life as valuable. To say $500,000 for a man who suffered, not only did he suffer at work, they described his home as not fit for a human to live. And then they see that this man gets only 10 years in prison for the scars that's going to be left on this man for an eternity. The judicial system is still unbalanced. Who is fighting for this man? $500,000 for that many years of enslavement is nothing. It's a mockery. It's a disgrace. And I hope that his attorney, that they fight for, and then they're going to appeal the money. They're going to appeal the money. Hopefully he can take some kind of suit against the man. I don't know.
It was a plea deal. I think when you look at it was a plea deal. The 10 years, the 240, whatever it was a plea deal.
Yeah,
he
that
wasn't even convicted.
He pled guilty, and that's what they gave him. But then the court came back and said, "No, sir." Go ahead, Lee.
No, what I was saying is that if y'all take a look at some of the court cases, think about how many Black men have been wrongfully jailed over the last century. And when they go back and find out that they've been wrongfully jailed and they let them out, they're like, oh, here's $1 million for you spending 20 years in prison. It always makes me go, $1 million? So it's Black men's lives in general aren't valued. And because we feel like if we were to let you out on the streets and you were to go get a job, nobody would have hired you anyway. Your earning capacity would have only been this amount anyway. But we don't know. But the fact that somebody's husband's brother, father, that child, and how it impacts all those lives that are attached to that. And I think it's something that we need to look at overall, especially when you look at the criminal justice system, and expecting justice from a system that was never designed to protect us is the problem. We keep asking and hoping that the system that is not designed to protect us, better us, keep us safe is going to do something that it's not. We have got to at some point decide where does our accountability lie in this? Because again, until we push past the pain and say, what, enough is enough. And that's what you see in the Black Lives Matter marches and some of these other things, that enough is enough. We're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And until we continue to use social media and all the things, outlets that we have to say, what, justice isn't just served. Because when we look at, the recent court case and we say, okay, that was one, but most Black people weren't happy about that. It was more like, we're not celebrating this. We're celebrating. It was more like a thief, because we knew that was just one battle that was won, but the war still rages on. We have to continue to fight, because at the end of the day, our lives aren't valued, whether it be in modern day slavery. When you look at the school to prison pipeline, that's the new modern day slavery, guys. Let's look at the school to prison pipeline. What are we doing? What do our communities look like? We're slaves in our own communities because we haven't figured out yet in certain communities how to take back our communities because they're riddled with gun violence. Let's talk about it, but that's a whole nother day.
Right. And actually, we are going to be talking about that, because the school to prison pipeline is real. It's something we talked about with Attorney Winfield Ward Murray, who will be joining us again this month to dig deeper into that conversation on race and the law. But you guys, I'm going to bring you ladies back on right after we do the Be Blessed segment to give some final closing thoughts on modern day slavery. This has indeed been an engaging conversation, but you guys, it is time to be blessed, and we are well past our time. But this was a conversation well worth having, because you would never believe that something like this was happening right here in the Southeast. Like, let's know the United States, this is right in our backyard. So guys, it's time for our Be Blessed giveaway. You guys already know from the previous conversation, our sponsor today is, of course, Miss Tanisha Locklear. You guys saw Katrina's hair, her braids be on fleek. They are knotless. She is flexible, reliable, and mobile, and she has contributed a significant amount of money to today's giveaway. We want to thank her. We also want to thank Pamela Cannon, also, who gave part of her $250 winnings to this giveaway today too. So you guys know how we do. We are going to do numbers 1 through 100. And let me, go ahead and tell you guys, today's giveaway is $400. So today we are giving away $400 on Unfiltered. You guys put your numbers in the chat, 1 through 100, and let's go.
Sometimes we're not ourselves. There's no one I can turn to. And I know all the feelings that we shared out in the past. And I know your relationships are never meant to last. And I'll take some time, but I'll be alright. We're moving on. We're moving on. I know times are tough, but I've had enough. We're moving on. We're moving on. We're moving on.
I see you guys. I see you guys. Yeah, I'm totally laughing. Roseanne's like, let me put a number up here just for fun. Even though you guys are guests, of course, you were allowed to participate in the giveaway for today. I see Tish's face. I'm glad you guys cannot see them in the green room right now. So you all, today, let me go over here and we're going to look through this chat really quick because I believe I saw two different people put up the number. Guys, today is May 5th. So the number is 55. The number is 55. Okay, so it looks like we have Cynthia Daniels with the number 55, but it also looks like we have Miss Stephanie Croft with the number 55. So instead of, someone said I almost put that because that's how old I am. Okay, so guys, instead of doing a $400, since there are two of you, we're going to be giving $200 to both Stephanie and Cynthia so that you can both be winners on Unfiltered today. And we're also going to be sending you both an Unfiltered t-shirt. So guys, make sure you send over your contact information, either chat or email information, but also send an email to beblessed, beblessed@bcwright.com, beblessed@bcwright.com. Let me make sure I can put that up so you can see it. Here you go. Actually, it's at bcwright.com. beblessed@bcwright.com. You see it on the bottom. Congratulations to both of you for winning today. So guys, we're at the end of our segment. I'm just going to bring back our guests for today. One, to say thank you, but also to give you, for you guys to give some closing thoughts on modern day slavery. So please welcome back with us, Katrina King-Flucas. Dr. K, what are your thoughts?
You know what, Vern, as I sit here and I tried to go back and look at some of the comments, because I saw that there are other special educators that were in the chat, and some parents of adults with intellectual disabilities. And they all talked about the fact that they've been very intentional about, educating their children and giving them the right resources. So in today's time, we have to make sure we keep our eyes wide open. We have to be able to have those conversations. We're beyond the state of putting people away because they have a disability. We have to take care of our own family members and make sure that we're doing what we need to do to put resources in place, because there are resources in place where we can support them. This situation, it went on for extremely too long. I'm certain it's not the only situation going on, but it'll definitely make everybody on this segment today look different when they walk in a restaurant, an airport, or any place of business. When they see someone, it'll make them act as opposed to keeping your mouth closed. It's time for us to stay woke, Vern.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us. Roseanne, what do you have for us today on your final thoughts?
I think, at the end of the day, modern slavery is about money. It's big business. I think I read $150 billion in profits yearly. and this gentleman made him money. And I think that if we don't use our voice, if we are not aware, then we mute the problem and no one can hear it.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us on today's broadcast. Amazing. In order, we got Tish Mills. What are your final closing thoughts for us today?
I'm still recovering that I guessed 55 and I didn't get the win. But anyhow,
Yes.
I think.
Are you messing with me?
No, I'm not. But anyhow, I want to thank you, Bern, for once more enlightening us, because we need to stay woke, because this issue is just a pebble in the sand. I'm not getting it right, but anyhow, it's a small incident, but it's happened so many times, and I had to go back and I'm going in my mind, because I remember when we were kids, we would see the kids on the milk carton, and we don't even know if that was sex trafficking then. And so, and I'm thinking, how many times have I seen people, like Lee said, and I didn't pay enough attention, or I didn't have the courage to say, are you okay? And I can still see the commercial in my mind, I'm gonna let you go, of the little girl walking away holding the man's hand, and on the back of her shirt it said, help me please. And that's all I have to say. We need to stay woke.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Next we have, hey sis, Shynitha, what are your closing thoughts?
My closing thoughts is, and I too would like to say thank you for even bringing this platform on. We have to make sure that we pay attention to the signs, the vulnerability that takes place. We know that most people that are engaging in some type of, whether it's sex trafficking, human trafficking, enslavement, as this guy was, there's always some form of neglect. Their social economic plays in a picture, their environment, their environmental, the way that they live, all of that plays a big role. And as Katrina says, one of the first places that you will see it is in the school system, but just paying attention to our surroundings and having enough courage to identify the fright. You're going to see fear on a child's face if you know that they're not where they're supposed to be. We just have to put ourselves in a place where we're being more attentive to our surroundings, because it's happening every single day. As we're speaking right now, is something happening. So
wow. Thank you so much for your insight. And thank you so much for joining us on today's broadcast. Next, we have Lee. What you got, sis?
So, I wouldn't be me if I didn't have a call to action at the very end. And so, what I would say, guys, is that don't let today just be another day where you were educated. Let today be a day where you get involved. And so my call to action today, guys, is going to be get involved with an organization that talks about that. CAST Coalition, they help abolish sex trafficking and slavery. The Centers for Human Trafficking and Awareness is another great organization. But also, if you're a victim of sex trafficking or know someone, or you have a friend or something that may be potential, consider reaching out. I mean, the phone number, just so that you guys have it, is 1-888-373-7888. Put that in your phone, guys. I implore you to save it, because you never know when you're going to need it. You may be at an airport, a hotel, and not have time to look that up. So please take the time, guys, to get yourself aware. As parents, we have to be vigilant about teaching.
Say the number again for me, sis.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Give me that phone number one more time.
Yes, it's 1-888-373-7888, and that's the National Human Trafficking Hotline.
Okay, excellent. I'm putting it on the screen for you. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so I would just say get involved with an organization, because again, it's not just about see something, say something, but again, we have got to take it to the next level. What are we doing to better the communities that we live in? We have got to stop expecting other people to be our voice. Be the change you seek. Be the change you seek. And so if that takes you running for office, if that takes you joining an organization, taking your children to get involved, teaching our children, because again, from an early age, I was taught, look, my mom would tell us, if somebody touches you inappropriately, they're probably going to tell you that they're going to hurt me, kill me, or they're going to do damage to your family to make you not want to tell. Make sure that we're teaching people, not just our children, but the people who are around us, and saying, hey, well, you know what, instead of us going to have a girls' coffee today, let's go down to the battered women's shelter. you know, let's go to some community and do something. So guys, we have got to stop being cute, just doing what's fun and talking about it, but we have at some point got to be about it and take it in something. So Bernadette, I hope that maybe we can have an opportunity to have an outing someday soon, that we actually go do something in the community and not just talk about it. So that would be what I would say for us. So thanks.
And that is coming, and you are doing something about it. I don't know if you're ready to announce yet what it is that you're going to be doing to make a difference in your community, but I will be having you back on the show to talk about that.
Sure.
In addition to the fact that Lee is also very heavily involved in change in the Atlanta area, which she'll be talking about also on the next show, as well as what's going on with voting in Georgia. So look to see Miss LeWanna Hurt Tucker soon back here on Unfiltered. Thank you, sis, for joining us for today's conversation.
Thank you.
And last but not least, take it away, Dee.
Well, I have a couple of questions that I'd like to present, that I presented to myself. And that is, one, what does modern day slavery look like to you? I had to ask that question to myself several times, because we've come away from a society where it takes a village to raise the children. Miss Johnson down the street used to keep a eagle's eye on every child. In every house from her house, there was someone, and we've gotten away where now that old lady's just nosy. No, they took account. They stood up, they watched, they made sure. We didn't have organized neighborhood watches back then. What we had was Mrs. Johnson and all the, the family members and different people down the street that had no problem with, hey, I saw Dee Dee down the street and I'm not sure what's going on, but you might want to come check. Or I snatched Dee Dee up by her head the other day because she was acting a fool. What happened to us being every day, not just some days, but every day vigilant about our children? This situation has no age. People are enslaved at different ages for different reasons. So pay attention, stay woke. Bern, I am absolutely just honored to be on this platform with you guys today amongst my sisters. This is an amazing topic and something that we should make sure that we're not just having that conversation with ourselves, but with our children, because trust and believe, our children see everything. And whether or not they know to speak about it or not depends on if we're having a conversation and opening the door that it's okay to talk about what your friend's friend is going through. So thank you again, and you guys be blessed.
Wow. There you have it, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for today's conversation on modern day slavery. Hopefully you guys learned something, and we're going to be vigilant, and we're going to pay attention and take the advice of all the ladies that was given today. And you guys know how we do. Until next time, be blessed and stay woke. Thank you for joining us for today's podcast. Bye-bye, guys.